as other scholars have defined it, but somewhat refined the way we define the Constitution, that being an instrument or a document that embodies the agreement of the citizens of a given country on how they are going to govern themselves. And that particular Constitution basically creates institutions of governance in that particular country. You are talking about the government itself, or if you're talking about the executive, then you're talking about the legislature, meaning the parliament that enacts the law, and the parliament is formed by people chosen representatives in that particular in that particular organ. Then you are going to the judiciary, where it's a body constituted by professionals who are judges. Basically, they are the ones who are arbiters of disputes in that particular country. So that's the understanding. But now, when you have that particular instrument of governance, that presumes that you are talking of a people that feel that they are free, and they are not under someone, but they are unto themselves, saying this is how we are going to be governed, and these institutions are also going to be accountable, because the people are still the repository of power in that particular country. And the government or the institutions that they create, for some extent, are answerable to the people in that particular country. That's why we have periodic elections, like let's say 4 or 5 years. You're going to elect our leaders in the executive and also in the parliament, and move in the other similar institutions. So another thing that is important in most constitutional democracies is the issue of having the Bill of Rights, where the rights of the people are guaranteed. They are not provided by the state, but rather they are guaranteed. And at the same time, in other constitutions, people will go forward and also bestow upon the people the responsibilities to those citizens on how they're supposed to be also to account to their own state. So basically, the essential premise of the constitutional democracy is equality before the law and accountability before the law. People, those in the government or people in power, and those the people on the streets are presumed to be equal. But now, how are we transforming those principles into a living reality is a constant struggle. This is what Professor Shivji was saying, that those are matters that are supposed to be fought each and every day, because you cannot just say we have arrived and we have a constitution that all of us say this is a perfect document, and there are no more conflicts in our society, but rather conflicts are part and parcel of human life, and for that matter, we are going to be battling each other. So in a constitutional democracy, for that matter, is supposed to ensure that people are under the law. That's the whole essence. That if all of us are under the law and are accountable to the law, then no one amongst us should feel himself or herself to be above the law. But in most of our countries, or in most of our African countries, we have created the whole notion about the imperial presidency, where if I'm the president today, I'm almost everything. And some people might call me God, Mheshimiwa Mungu, then they might correct themselves if at an opportune time. So we need to ensure that we demystify that particular thinking. And we are saying we are accountable to the people and to the law. And if you are equal, then our judiciary, the judicial body, must also feel itself and must project the image of being independent. And being independent means it cannot take any dictate or any order from whoever is appearing before it or is outside it, but rather it must show that it's the final habit of disputes, and it impartially decides all the disputes that come before it. And that's very, very important. But if you don't have that, and perhaps laws are are created in a manner that elevates the executive arm of government to be above the law. This is what is most of the time you can see most of our laws nowadays. You cannot, 2 years ago here, a law was passed where we could no longer, we are not allowed to sue the president in his or her name, but rather we are supposed to sue the Attorney General. We cannot sue the Speaker, the Chief Justice, and so many others. But then we are basically going against the whole notion that all people are equal before the law. And one thing that is one needs also to protect is the whole notion that we find even in Article 26 of our Constitution, which basically says all of us are supposed to respect and uphold the Constitution of our country and the laws of our country. And for that matter, any law or any action that infringes or go against the respect for human rights, the respect for the democracy or constitutional governance, then that action should be frowned upon, and the people should be able to take action in court and challenge that. So that's the things that I thought is important. Then the process now, how do we make a constitution? Some people might say we should have some experts. Those are the ones who are going to create a document, then perhaps it might be brought to us. That might be a good starting point, but most of the time we want the people to feel that to own the process of coming up with a constitution that eventually they'll call, this is our constitution for which you are supposed to respect. And more importantly, a country like ours, where we are formed by two parts, there were two independent countries, then they came together. Then there are issues that people are saying they were not resolved when our country became united. And I think this would have been a grand opportunity for the people now to be able to be given a chance to frame what they will say, this is our constitution that is going to govern the two parts of the union or form of the federation, if that's the case. So there is a need of a dialogue. Then the issue, we cannot say we should postpone. We should postpone the creation of a constitution or having a good constitutional order. It's not something that can be postponed. Human life is not, you cannot postpone it. Each and every day that passes, I've said it many times, you are here, you have a limited time on this earth. That time you've been given is a time for which you are supposed to undertake that particular task, and it cannot be passed to future generations or to other people. And because the government's work cannot come to an end, it's a continuing endeavor. And for that matter, we need to continue to ensure that this generation of ours, or we should take upon it ourselves to come up with a new constitution, but it must be a people-centered constitution. And for that matter, all of us should be involved into the constitution-making process, and we should create the institutions that are also going to be accountable to us. And much as people have said, yes, we might have perfect documents, or well-written documents. Yes, some people might not enforce them properly, but those they give us a chance that perhaps in the future other people will be able to enforce them properly. At least we have a good starting point. Thank you.
Asante sana, asante tena. Ishara kwa nimefika mahali nataka sema umemaliza muda, tukamalizia hapo hapo. Tunaendelea Kevin. Nataka ukae kule. 10 minutes.
Can you please set the computer so they can use the slides, please? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I'm also supposed to talk about presidentialism and elites. So really, as Professor Shivi was saying when he was responding to the questions, that politicians are power greedy. So from the conventional political theory, of course, we know that they seek continuation and enhancement of their careers. And that if given the chance, political leaders will use advantages of incumbency to sort of perpetuate and continue to lose the election. This is well-researched subject area. But of course, we know from Leeds, 1996, who did a study on democratic survival, and it demonstrated that incumbents advantage is a threat to democratic survival, especially also in the presidential system rather than parliamentary systems. So, of course, when you talk of institution of term limits, is that you want to count advantages of incumbents, which political leaders will use to ensure that they continue to stay in power. But from the very elementary level, I know to some of you it is obvious, to some of you it's not obvious. So term limits can be defined when you want to distinguish them from a term. The term refers to the period that elected public officers can serve before being required to renew their mandate in a fresh election. However, term limits, on the other hand, they set a ceiling on the number of terms that any one individual can serve in elected public office, even if voters are ready to elect. And there is a long tradition from the United States, of course. You know that the only president of the U.S. to have broken two-term tradition is President Franklin Roosevelt. And after he made the Second Amendment, the U.S. Constitution sets a limit of the terms for so why term limits, or why limits? Because they have limits. Council also limits, but here we are focusing on presidential limits. So we know they are critical to democratic consolidation and sustainability. And they are seen as important because of several reasons. One of them being an important check to executive powers, which is a potential threat to lead to the rise of tyranny and authoritarianism. They also remove and neutralize advantages of incumbency, and they depersonalize national politics. Also, they increase popular participation and reduce political domination by an individual or group. But also, they promote renewal by bringing new and fresh ideas into the political process. However, there are also those who say, okay, term limits are not good. And the points they're bringing forth are that they dilute voters' choice, thus undermining citizens' sovereignty. They deprive countries of experience and able leadership. And they remove incentives for incumbents to do well so that they may be re-elected. It's my final term, so I don't need to ask because I'm not going to run for an office. But also they say, if you say that they bring a breath of fresh air in terms of newness of ideas, they say they do not prevent former leaders from influencing policy making. For instance, in Russia, when Putin stepped down and Medvedev in power, still Putin had an influence, and of course our own Mwalimu after retirement. However, there is an argument that absence of term limit does more far-reaching structural harm to the political system. And there is a quotation there that the institution of term limits represents a demonstration of faith in the common sense that all citizens are able to exercise leadership by providing opportunity for as many people as possible to contest for leadership positions, and society can thus tap into the leadership potential of a wide range of individuals in society. So, after all those general remarks, let's focus on Afro. Presidential term limits. What do we know? We say that post-independent Africa lent the hardware importance of term limits provisions in their constitutions, and the importance of observing that constitutional requirement. And we know until November 1982, when His Excellency Ahidjo resigned from President of Cameroon, no African leader left office with many leaders, post-independent African leaders, they imposed single-party rule, either taking a form of military and we know that between 1960 and 1990, 70% of change at the top of African states came either through coups or assassinations, the consequent bloodshed, conflict, and instability. So the rebirth of democracy on the continent in the wake of the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 was anchored by constitutions that had provisions for term limits and mostly requiring presidents to serve for 2 consecutive terms. However, a trend of wanting to change or remove term limits set in, and it continues today. Some countries, for example, Zambia and Malawi, resisted the push successfully, while others, such as Uganda, Namibia, and Rwanda, succumbed to the pressure and watered down or removed completely term limits. I will skip this slide for the interest of time. However, despite all these changes, term limits are very valid, because if you go to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 16 and AU Agenda 63, the Afro one, they all sort of stress the need to have term limits as a push for governance, as a push for democracy and respect for human rights. Now, from it, sorry? Okay, thank you very much. So, thank you. So, for instance, the Afro Barometer survey, they say that about 75% of citizens in 34 African countries are in favor of limiting presidential mandates to 2 terms. And of the 21 countries that have maintained term limits, the executive office holders have been in power for 4 years on average. And also from April 2000 to July 2018, term limits have been changed 47 times in 28 countries in the region, in Africa, and with at least 6 failed attempted changes. I will skip that. So, who are the main actors when presidents want to change terms? As you can see here, you have the parliament in all those countries, and you have referendum in Cote d'Ivoire, Chad, Uganda, and judiciary in Burkina Faso, Malawi, Benin, Senegal, and Burundi. And also, when you try to explain why some countries have succeeded in changing term limits and why others have failed, there are several scholars who have attempted to answer that question. For instance, they talk about the sloppy constitution writing process, resource endowment of a country, political legacies, the history of violence, and of course the impact of a president. For instance, in Tanzania, when Mwalimu decided to relinquish power, you can see within the CCM, there has been that tradition. But others talk about level of democracy. Here you have scholars such as Chisman and Toole and Simons. However, there are those who say regime type matters a lot in changing governments. And there is a study conducted in 2020 by OSI leads who claim or who come up with several hypotheses. The first one, they say personalist leaders will usually seek to extend their term to secure regime survival. And they are the likes of Ayadem of Togo. And also they say that regime survival will depend on the occupation of the ruling elite. And third, party-based regimes respect constitutional limits without endangering regime stability. So I will present the conclusion is that there is a need to mobilize and advocate for presidential term limits in Africa. Not only is this step important, as it involves the principle of governance, but it ensures that there is a continuation in the change of power within our African states, therefore promoting the emergence of a new generation of leaders. So there is a need to explore and establish those mechanisms under which presidential term limits lead to democratic consolidation, and to explore factors that can lead to observance of presidential term limits.
afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's such an honor to be on a panel chaired by Justice Mwalimu. So this afternoon, I will just initiate a conversation on a very pertinent topic, broad, sensitive, but also fascinating at the same. And I've decided to title my talk "Elections Without Choice," and I'll give a bit of experience in East Africa. So I'm starting by asking a question: why do elections matter? Professor Shivji told us that democracy, there's a mode of democracy that is said to be universal, and there's a lot of debate about that. But it is clear that elections have become almost a universal strategy on how people should participate in governing themselves. Initially, democracy was meant to be all the people meet, deliberate, and decide on their matters. Now, because of the impracticality of that model, it was thought that a mechanism is brought in place to ensure that citizens participate in making their decision by selecting their rulers. And therefore, elections are important for translating the symbolic notion that power belongs to the people. And Professor Shivji also preempted me when he was answering a question to one of the speakers that mimi siwezi kuwa kiongozi wako, nabidi ujiongoze. And nobody likes to be ruled. I don't like to be ruled, and I'm sure Mr. Chairperson, you also don't like to be ruled. But if ruled we must, then we should be able to at least periodically, throw the rascals away. If I don't like a representative, then I should be able to throw him away or her away anytime I wish. But how do we possibly do that? We do that in a context where elections are democratic. And there are so many ways to assess and examine whether elections are democratic or otherwise. Professor Mukandala is the most experienced expert in this when they use the concepts and criteria free and fair elections. But in most cases, we take these attributes for granted. And even a common mwananchi atakwambia uchaguzi haukuwa uhuru na wa haki. If you ask him or her, what does that mean? They may not be able to say. But I'm saying that at least a free election is conducted in a context where there is absence of coercion. There is a right and opportunity to choose one policy, one candidate or party over the other. But elections are also supposed to be free from violence, intimidation, bribery, vote rigging, partisan manipulation, and so many other aspects. Fairness, we look at impartiality, treatment of all competing contenders equally, regularity, unbiased application of rules, but also reasonableness, not too unequal distribution of relevant resources among competitors. Now, I would like to argue this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, that Africa and East Africa as well has held periodic and regular elections. But those elections are in most cases devoid of the fundamental arguments of democratic elections of freeness and fairness. And therefore, I'm arguing that most elections are conducted without choice. People vote, but they don't choose. Why? Because of three main reasons. There could be many reasons, but I'm trying to just present three. One is on the legal and institutional framework. That most of the rules, regulations, and procedures that govern elections in Africa, including our very own Tanzania, are designed in such a manner that they are not presenting equal opportunities to equal contenders or to all contenders. But there have also been questions on on the legitimacy of the laws themselves. Who designs them and for whose interest? Kevin has presented about presidentialism, and my friend there about constitutionalism. In most cases, we do not adhere to our constitutional provisions. And in the last general elections in Tanzania, for example, there has been a number of laws enacted that are said to have restricted freedoms of individuals and democratic space. And therefore that poses a question whether people freely choose in a fair environment. But another pertinent area is on the election management. Who regulates elections? How independent and autonomous are these election managers? There has always been complaints around that area that elections are managed by institutions that are not autonomous and that are not independent. And therefore that raises a question whether there is fairness in the outcome of the electoral process. Biasness. I was just reading about Uganda in the concluded elections this year, that Electoral Commission in Uganda banned campaigns in some districts, and those districts were in urban areas. And there were concerns that that was intentional because in most cases in Africa, urban districts are opposition strongholds. So people were asking questions whether that move was fair enough. But in Tanzania, something that I think also limits people's choices is the question of independent candidacy. I remember, Justice Warioba, you will remind me if I'm wrong, even during Mwalimu Nyerere era, when he was standing alone as a presidential candidate, people were casting a yes or no vote. Why are we allowing people to run unopposed without being chosen by the people? If someone feels that, I think this person who ran unopposed, or at least we should show that we are happy to be ruled by them or otherwise by choosing them or casting a vote yes or no. But the last thing that I would like to talk about that also poses a question whether people elect their representative freely is on the question of fundamental freedoms and liberties. There is plenty of research, even election observers talk about limits on freedoms of expression, association, and assembly, intimidation and threats, repression, excessive use of coercive powers. It is not uncommon to see soldiers, for example, with armed soldiers roaming around on election day, and you wonder whether it is for making sure that an election takes place in a peaceful manner or otherwise. But sometimes it can also be scary. I may not go out to vote because I feel like yes, Mr. Chairman, I am. Thank you so much. That I can be scared to go out and vote because of such an environment. But other people would say we are trying to make sure that an election takes place in a in a calm and peaceful manner. Violence, vote rigging, irregularities, systematic fraud, all these are things that I think make elections not a real choice in Africa. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what I've tried to say in my talk is that Africa and East Africa, Tanzania, have held elections periodically, regularly, people participate, but because of some of the problems that I have talked about, skewed legal framework, institutional bias, limit on freedoms and liberties, these make elections not a real choice. And thank you for listening.
Asante sana Consolata. Niwashukuru presenters wote, wamejitahidi. Muda haukuwa rafiki sana, lakini wamejitahidi na nadhani wamechokoza ya kutosha. Sasa tutakuwa na dakika 15 hivi za michango. Kama nilivyosema mwanzo, kwa kuwa muda wetu ni mfupi, inawezekana maswali yakiwa mengi hamtapata majibu. Kwa hiyo mjitahidi kutoa michango kuongezea kwa hadi wasema. Ukiuliza swali usitegemee kupata jibu. Naam. Haya, hapa. Dakika 2.
Mwenyekiti, mimi siulizi swali isipokuwa
jitambulishe.
Naitwa Mkoba. Mwalimu Mkoba ni mstaafu, mwalimu mstaafu. Rugemeleza alivyokuwa ana present juu ya katiba, ameeleza umuhimu wa katiba, na mimi kwa sababu muda ni mchache, katiba yetu ina kipengele kinasema rais akishatangazwa hakuna mamlaka yote itakayopinga. Kwa hiyo moja kwa moja hiyo ina necessitate, yani inaleta umuhimu wa kuandika katiba nyingine itakayoondoa vipengele ambavyo ni obnoxious kama hicho. Na nikirudi kwa Profesa Shivji asubuhi alivyokuwa anasema kwamba katiba sio muhimu sana isipokuwa mtawala atakayekuwepo. Katiba yetu ambao of course naongea kwa Rugemeleza Nshara pale. Katiba yetu inatakiwa tuwe nayo, na in fact tuwe na katiba ya wananchi ambayo mzee Wariobo uliongoza ile tume, sio ile ya pili iliyokuja kuchakachuliwa, kwa sababu tuna umuhimu wa kuwa na katiba itakayoondoa hivi vitu vipengele ambavyo vipo na kuondoa sheria ambazo zimetungwa juzi ambazo amestaja huyu Konsolata za juzi zilikuwa natungwa jioni kwamba fulani hatashtakiwa tena. Yetu tunaongeza orodha ya watu wasioshtakiwa. Tunaongeza impunity kwa watu wengi, mara waziri mkuu atashtakiwa tena, speaker wa bunge hatashtakiwa. Au speaker huyu asiyeshtakiwa anayefananaje huyu? Yaani yuko likely kushtakiwa lakini sheria inatungwa asishtakiwe. Sasa sana mtu unaambiwa tunga katiba ya nyumbani au sheria za nyumbani kwako, ukasema baba akija saa 8 usiku mtu asimuulize swali. Mnatunga katiba ya familia yako. Sasa kwa nini unatunga sheria saa 8 akija saa 8 usiku asiulizwe? Ina maana anataka kuja saa 8 usiku. Naomba niachie hapo.
Asante sana. Kwa majina naitwa Arif Nurali Fazal, ni mwanafunzi kutoka chuo kikuu RIA cha Tanzania. Nachukua masters ya Arts in Governance and Leadership. Lakini pia nawakilisha shirika la vijana linaloitwa Tanzania Youth Vision Association. Mwaka huu kupitia shirika letu nimepata nafasi, na shirika letu limepata kibali cha kutoa elimu ya mpiga kura, na binafsi nilipata nafasi ya kuzunguka takribani nchi nzima pamoja na Tume ya Taifa ya Uchaguzi kutoa elimu na hamasa kwa wananchi kujitokeza kupiga kura, kujitokeza kujiandikisha kwenye daftari la kudumu la wapiga kura, kujitokeza kupiga kura. Lakini nilibahatika pia kuwa election observer, na nilikwenda Mwanza ku observe election, na niliona turnout ndogo hususan ya vijana kwenye uchaguzi, na nikawiwa katika research yangu ya masters kufanya assessment ya voters turnout especially on youth. Na hii inatokana na mambo kadhaa ambayo katika research ile nilipata kubaini kwa nini vijana wengi au wananchi wengi wajitokezi katika zoezi zima la kupiga kura. Na pia nilibahatika kwenda nchi ya East Africa kama Uganda, na nilipata kufahamu experience yao kwenye uchaguzi, na mengi ambayo yanawafanya vijana wengi wasishiriki kwenye hii michakato ya uchaguzi, lakini pia kujitokeza kupiga kura. Mengi yanaendana na ambayo dada pale ametoka kuyazungumza, lakini ambayo nimeyapata mimi. Kwanza, kuna absence of change in their lives and economic hardship. Hiyo wanaona wanapojitokeza kupiga kura maisha ni yale yale. Lakini pia experience kwa Tanzania, experience ya 2020 uchaguzi wa serikali za mitaa nao pia kwa kiasi kikubwa sana umepelekea vijana na wananchi wengi wasijitokeze kupiga kura. Lakini kingine ambacho ni cha muhimu tuzingatie ni kwamba Mwaka huu waliojiandikisha walikuwa takribani milioni 29, lakini waliojitokeza kupiga kura walikuwa ni milioni 15. Hii inaonyesha ni asilimia kubwa sana ya vijana ya wananchi hawajajitokeza kupiga kura, lakini pia takwimu zinaonyesha katika maeneo mengi, na ukisoma baadhi ya election observation report ambazo zimetoka zinaonyesha kulikuwa na kura nyingi zilizoharibika. Kwa hiyo pia sababu nyingine ya msingi ambayo inasababisha watu wengi wasijitokeze kupiga kura lakini kushiriki kwenye michakato ya uchaguzi ni civic education, elimu ya uraia as first generation of human rights ambao wote. Asante sana.
Asante. Kwa majina anaitwa Boniface Wikama, mwaka wa 3 University of Dar es Salaam.
Asante kwa nafasi. Kwa haraka mimi ningependa kuzungumzia kidogo juu ya term limits, presentation ya mwisho. Tangu awamu ya kwanza ya Mwalimu mpaka hata hii ya juzi ya JPM kumekuwa na attempts za kuextendi muda wa rais aliye madarakani. Hata wakati wenu mzee Sinde mlikuwa mnamwambia Mwalimu uendelee, nchi haijakomaa. Alipostaafu akawaambia alikuja kugundua kwamba nyinyi ndio mlikuwa mjakomaa. Sasa mimi ningetamani kusikia mnapendekeza nini nyinyi wanazuoni juu ya kuondoa kabisa uwezekano wa mtu kufikiria kuongeza. Yaani iwe ni criminal hata kusema ataki astaki, iwe ni criminal. Kwa sababu tunaona it is sustainable. Tangu Mwalimu, njoo Mwinyi, Mkapa, Kikwete, JPM, kote kulikuwa na attempt za kufanya nini? Kuondoa term limit. Na kwa sababu hizo tu za ajabu. Sasa mimi nidhani mngetusaidia, mtu wa constitutionalism, mngetusaidia kuelekea kucriminalize attempt ya namna hiyo.
Asante. Kwa majina anaitwa Boniface Wikama, mwanafunzi wa mwaka wa 3 kutoka Department ya Philosophy and Ethics. Swali langu ni moja. Nimekuwa nikijiuliza kwa muda mrefu, why periodic election is so important in Tanzania? Why should we still spending money running election while there is other more stuff suffering from our countries? Tuna matatizo mengi, kwa nini tutumie pesa nyingi kufanya uchaguzi? Nilikuwa naomba kuuliza.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My name is Helen. I'm a product of University of Dar es Salaam from Department of Political Science and Public Administration. And also I'm a stakeholder of electoral issues, and last year also I got an opportunity to be an electoral observer. So I will go straight to Dr. Nshala. Thank you very much for your presentation. You talk about judiciary independent. Also excited because judiciary is the backbone of the government, and it is there to settle the dispute between maybe citizens by citizens or citizens in the state and individuals. But then if judiciary is not independent, then where is the justice? Why our judiciary look like it is not independent? Because if you do research, you'll find out a lot of people, they are not seeking justice because they are like, I'm leaving it to God, because I know if I'll go there, I won't find my justice, especially marginalized group. You'll never find them fighting for their justice, simply because they will be like, if we compete maybe with someone who is higher, I cannot find my justice because these people are like, make them use until their last coin, you know? Many people, many families became poor because of these issues. So I want to understand where is the right, where is the justice to our people in Tanzania? Is our judiciary really independent? And if not, how do we hold them accountable? Thank you.
Okay, my name is Pamba Antipas M. I'm a student from the University of Dar es Salaam. Natokea Kuwait. Naomba nitumie Kiswahili. Tumekuwa tukizungumza mada 3 ambazo kimsingi basis yake yote ni kusisitiza katika demokrasi. Ukiangalia tunazungumza ya kwanza kabisa tunazungumza elections. Madam amepresent kuhusu mada inayohusisha watu wanachagua pasipo ridhaa yao. Lakini tumezungumza swala la constitution na presidential limits. Yote yanatuelekeza kwenye demokrasia. Sasa kwa mtazamo wangu nilikuwa naona hizi third world countries ipo haja ya sisi kustrengthen economic freedom kwanza kabla ya kuanza kuseek for democracy, kuanza kuangalia, kwa sababu tukiattain economic freedom at first, most of the things that we are dealing with them tutavirahisisha kuvikamilisha. Tunaandaa katiba, tunaileta, inaletwa ni mawazo ya watu, lakini at the end of the day those who are having economic power are the ones who take rule, they take control over everything that we are doing. Yes, the constitution is very vital for the survival of people. Tunatambua hilo. Lakini ipo haja ya sisi kuinvest kwenye economic freedom kwanza. Ili tukishakuwa na hiyo economic freedom, sasa tuanze kwenye hizi familia zetu ndogo ndogo na hizi institution ndogo ndogo kustrengthen swala la kidemokrasia. Baada ya hapo ndio tuattain tunachokitaka. Kingine nilikuwa sijapata kuzungumza hili pia. Tuna maprofesa wengi kwenye